Hi, my name's Emma. I'm a crochet designer and author, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of what we call crochet hacking. Now, crochet hacking is where we use crochet, seller, to transform old garments into something new. So this bum bag used to be a vinyl skirt. And for me, during the kind of dark winter months, I always want something a bit sparkly with me and bright. So this for me is like the perfect winter seasonal accessory. All you need to do this kind of upcycle is use a few simple tools, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and the knowledge of a little bit of crochet. Okay, let's get going. So what we're going to do first is I actually want to make the strap. So I'm going to turn this inside out. And I'm going to make the strap from the hem all along here. Let's just move this out of the way. All of this here is going to become our strap. And to do that, I just need to make a little snip. You'll see I'm folding it like this, snipping there, so I've got my hole. And that gives me my place to start. Usually I tell you to cut with it flat against the surface, but it's not quite so important in this instance because I've got a really handy guide. I can go all the way around. So now what we need to do, we've got our, what's going to become our strap. Now we need to cut our pieces out of our skirt. Because this is vinyl, I'm literally just going to draw around it with a felt pen on the vinyl. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a seam allowance, but I think we can get most of it out. Yeah, look, perfect. Of this, like this here. So I'm just going to get a pen. I've got myself a marker pen. And I'm going to draw around the pieces. Now all we need to do, it's probably a bit faint for you guys to see that from here, but I can see it perfectly, and I can just cut those pieces out. And you'll see what I'm doing is I'm keeping this flat, and I'm moving the scissors in my hand, because that does stop it getting out of shape. And we don't want it to get out of shape, especially when it's quite it actually feels quite floppy. It's not a very stiff vinyl. It's quite a light vinyl. But obviously what's brilliant about this is it doesn't fray, so it's perfect with this kind of thing. Now I'm going to come on the other side. There's one bit. Another piece. Now that we've cut our pieces out, what we need to do is make holes around the edge so that we can crochet into them, so we can attach them to each other. But to work out how far apart those holes need to be, there's a really easy way of making yourself a template, and that is to just crochet a little row of stitches in any of the yarn. I mean, all my yarns, as I said, are slightly different widths, so I've just kind of grabbed, this is a DK cotton, which is, I think, slightly in between all of them. I'm just going to make a little row here. So I'm doing my chain. I don't need very many, just a few, and I'm going to do, you can do double, single, treble, whatever stitch works for you. It doesn't actually matter because all this is going to be is our template. So I'm going to do some of these here. I'm going to cut that and bring this in as my template. So where we drew on our material, so we're going to do a mark. I'm going to do every stitch, because I want to do 2 single treble, so again, probably. So then US and just do. I'm going to do a double, maybe a single round edge. And I'm going to start, we slightly up this time, or roll one constant depends, so I'm going to take a mark, there we go, now it's like a sec. There we go. One here, one here, one here. I'm going to do it along, I'm going to do exactly the same, all the way along. This. Here we go. One here, one here, one here. I'm going to move it along. I'm going to do exactly the same all the way along. This is my little template. This is where I need to make my holes. I'm going to do this around the edge of all my bits of vinyl and around the edge of the strip I've got for the strap as well. I'm going to do mine in all different colours too. I want different colours around every single edge. Once I've done that, that's where this comes in. Then all we do literally is we're going to punch a hole. You can use anything you like to make the hole. I've tried it with a sharp needle, with, you know, the punches you get for putting rivets in stuff. I've tried it with those. I've just tried it with a really sharp knitting needle. I actually find this tool to be the nicest one to use, because what it does is cut so neatly around the edge of those holes that it doesn't really, you don't really get any frays or anything. So this is by far my preferred tool, and it is also brilliant for use on denim. I mean, it's amazing on denim. I could also use it on jersey, which is remarkable because you'd think that jersey would fray, but it doesn't. And I also have used it on plastics. So like I've upcycled an IKEA bag, and actually if you find my crochet hacking book, you'll see all the different things you can use it on. I think it's brilliant as a tool. And leather, which is what it's actually intended for. So that is how we make our holes. And I'm just going to show you exactly how we will join on and start doing our crochet, because what I'm going to do is make holes around all the separate pieces, which you don't need to watch me for, that'll take forever. I am now going to show you how we crochet in the holes. And I mean, it's literally as simple as putting my crochet hook in, yarning over, pulling it through that hole. I'm going to secure it with a couple of chain stitches. I'm going back in this hole because remember our holes are 2 stitches apart, so each hole's got to have 2 stitches in. So that's the first one. Going to the second one. I'm going to do 2 stitches in there. I'm going to the next one, doing 2 in there. I mean, that is literally it. Now I'm just going to crochet all around the edge of this one. I think the top's clearly going to be blue. I'm going to use pink, I'm going to use orange. I'm going to crochet around all of those, and then I'll show you how to put the zip in before we assemble it all together. So I've crocheted around all of the edges, and I've done different colours for different bits all the way around mine. And what we need to next do is put in our zip. So what I've done, you'll see at the end here, I've just quickly cut a little strip and I've sewn that on one end and that on the other end. And that's just going to tightly secure our zip at either end for us. And what I need to do now is sew these together. So I'm going to start on one edge. I'm going to pin it in the middle there. So I'll bring in the shell tortoise, everybody's favourite pincushion. I'm going to pin it, I start from the middle because that way I know it's going to be even all the way up. I'm going to pin, I'm going in and up like that. And I'm going to do one a little bit further up, obviously because this is a curve. We need to sort of force it into shape, but that's not too hard. Then you can either sew this on a sewing machine, or I actually prefer to do stuff like this by hand, because it's, I mean, a sewing machine can be a pain in the bum to set up, but also you need things like zip feet and all those kind of things. And actually sewing by hand, a backstitch, a simple backstitch, actually is a really secure thing. I mean, if you think about it, they made all the dresses of all time out of them. So it really is just as good. And I'm pinning it all the way to the top. Now I'm going to get a needle and thread and sew that in place. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use white. It's quite hard to know what colour to use on like a shiny fabric like this. I'm going to use white just so that you can see it, which isn't necessarily going to be ideal for my finish, but I would rather you could see what I've done. I'm also going to show you the way I was taught to tie a knot in the end of a piece of thread, because it's one of the things I use all the time. So you wrap it around your finger like that, and then we roll the thread off and pull it into a knot, and that's how we get a knot right at the very end of the thread. Simple. Okay, and because I'm going to do a back stitch, I'm going to start about here. I'm going to try and use my yarn to hide it. So I'm going to go back with that. Oh, brilliant. My yarn is hiding it, which is lovely. So I'm coming forwards, going back, and I'm using the edge of my crochet stitch to sew under. I can take this pin out now. You see it's just disappearing in there, which is brilliant. Got there? Lovely. So now I'm going to do that all the way along, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. I've sewn this side on. I'm actually just going to show you how I'm going to lie these two together. So we actually want that to overlap there, because we're going to sew these bits together later when we join all the edges. But you see, actually that's really securely and happily in place, just with that bit of hand stitching. And now this one, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to pin it in place first, all the way along, but rather than starting in the middle this time, we've got the edge here as our guide. This is literally how easy it is. I mean, the thought of putting in a zip quite often can be really dramatic, but it's genuinely not. It's just about being in charge of the fabric. Because this is a curve, obviously it feels a bit more like you have to manipulate it, but actually it's fine. It's just taking charge of that material. So you get the idea with this one. So now I'm going to hand sew all that edge in place, and then we're going to be ready to assemble the whole thing. Now you can see, ta-da, a beautifully working zip, which is excellent. We just need to put it all together. What I've done on this side is I've just attached that, it was the hem of that skirt. I kind of put it on and worked out how long I wanted it, and that was sort of where it worked in terms of the length of the strap. So I've sewn that in, done a back stitch again using some coloured yarn to just match it in, and then I don't know if you can quite see that, but there's a little stitch of back stitch there as well. And now we just need to put it all together. Ha ha! Oh, I love this part. It's always exciting, even when you've made loads of them like I have. So what we're going to do is take some of our, I'm going to use the colour that is prominent on the top. So for this one, I'm going to take some of that peach thread, and I am going to use that to work around this edge. And then for this one, I'm going to use the blue thread. So I'm going to just thread my needle. So I've already joined on at the corner and worked the stitches through that handle there. what I'm going to show you, all that we're going to do is we're going to come in from the back and we're going to work underneath stitches like this, because from the front, that's because we're using a matching coloured yarn, that is just going to disappear, which is what we really want. Ordinarily I prefer a whip stitch, which is the one where you go over the top. That's just an aesthetic thing, but because that would really stand out against this one, I'm just going to use a running stitch, or we can back stitch it again. And you'll see we can sit on the back slightly, but really, because it's the front, I always worry about the front and rarely the back. So now we're going to just do that all the way around. The bottom here, and then we're going to do the same thing along that back edge and just these little guys here on the corners. Okay, nearly there. So there we have it, one complete sewn together bum bag, and I have already put in it my vital things for my festive season: my face mask, some Tic Tacs, wallet and keys, and that is it. I mean, who needs anything else? Bum bags are actually brilliant for that, because if you get used to carrying around a massive bag, you just carry loads of stuff you don't need. This is like the perfect party collection right here. Oh, thanks for joining me. I really enjoyed doing that. If you want any other kind of tips or tricks or anything, you can find my book Crochet Hacking, which shows you not just how to work with stuff like vinyl, but how to work in knit and plastics and denim and all sorts of other things. And it's there to give you kind of ideas and recipes to get you rethinking how you can kind of deal with your old clothes and turn them into something new. Okay, happy season!